the Cowboys beat the Detroit Lions last night, which was crazy because there were 800 yards of offense and the score was 20-19, which has got to be some kind of NFL anomaly. But I was watching. I mean, it was just, first of all, it's a typical Cowboys game, Clark, where you feel like, you're watching it and you feel like, boy, this score doesn't seem like it's right. You know what I mean? Because it felt like the Cowboys were moving the ball up and down the field. They get the first touchdown and then they fumble the ball out of the end zone on the second one. And it seemed like it was 7-3 forever. And, I'm just watching the Lions are going for it on fourth downs and, not taking 3 points when they had the opportunity. So, which ended up costing them later, right? As we said, Clark, it always does. But, so I wanted your take on this. So Detroit, they score the touchdown to get within a point. And then they decide, all right, we're going to go for 2, right? They go for 2 and they get it. It looks like they get it anyway. They throw a pass to an offensive lineman to their left tackle, and I guess he did not declare eligible or whatever. So you want to complain about referees, Clark, for like a good 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, good, they won, blah blah blah. And it's like, oh no, wait a minute. It's like, so the referees needed the Cowboys to tell them that, oh, by the way, that guy didn't report as eligible. So it's just like, this is like a perfect example, Clark, of what you've been talking about, where it's just like some dumbass rule. Like, really? Like, this is what we're going to do? We're going to decide the game because the guy didn't declare as eligible for whatever it is. Like, honestly, what are we doing? So they don't get the 2-point conversion. They're like, all right, so they get a penalty that moves them back. They're like, all right, we're going to go for it anyway. Then the Cowboys jump off sides because that's the Cowboys, right? Can't let a play go by without screwing some shit up. They move back, they're at the 4-yard line. They go for the 2 points again. The guy's open, and Jared Goff just doesn't hit him. So they lose the game. So, and then everybody, of course, is ripping Detroit. How could you be so stupid? Kick the point, or, take the extra point. What's the matter with you? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, you guys all loved it 10 minutes ago when they scored on the 2-point conversion, didn't you? So, I thought once they didn't get it from the 2-yard line, I thought they probably should have taken the extra point, because how many 2-point plays do you have that are going to work in a game? Teams don't have 3-4 2-point plays that are going to work. So I thought that once they got moved back, they should have kicked the extra point. But honestly, I'm not going to criticize that decision too much, because they went for the 2 and they got it. Like, he's like, all right, we're going to go for the win. And I get the attitude. I would criticize them for what happened earlier in the game, where they didn't take the 3 points when they should have had, they could have easily had it. And so that came back to bite him. I understand him going forward, and honestly, like, if the stupid tackle had done what he's supposed to do, like, they would have won the game. So I just wanted,
right.
What was your take on that?
Okay, well, the other context we need to point out is the Cowboys had the ball, and then they Dak threw a pass out of bounds, so they could have ran off more clock. So the Lions had plenty of time to drive right down the field, which they did. They drove right down the field, like, bang, 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 bang. They're right there, touchdown. Okay, now, so that's a clock management issue with Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy, which so we've been saying that forever.
And I wanted to point that out, Clark. Like, the Cowboys have the ball, right? And then they run it a couple. Well, the series before the last series, right? Where it's like, okay, whatever. They ran the ball a couple of times, whatever. And Jason McIntyre from the Colin Cowherd Show is on Twitter going, how can you be conservative there? Jesus, McCarthy, you deserve to lose this game, blah, blah, blah. So then they get on the next series, they're like, all right, we're going to throw it. They complete the first pass. Okay, good. He throws a second pass out of bounds, which just hands Detroit another 40 seconds. If you just run the ball 3 times there, you're really likely to win the game. And they never would. And by the way, if they had just not thrown that stupid pass, then Detroit never has enough time to get the touchdown there. So, I just want to point out that, like, we get into all this analytics crap and everybody goes crazy about it again, but it costs both teams in this game. It cost Detroit, because if they would have kicked, they had an extra 3 points, or they actually had an opportunity to get a field goal earlier in the game and Jared Goff took a sack. Like, if they just execute a little bit better on those things, grab 3 or 6 points or whatever it is, then they win the game anyway. And Dallas, with terrible clock management, allows themselves. It's such a typical Dallas game. Like, they honestly, They were moving the ball up and down the field. CeeDee Lamb had like a record number of yards receiving in the game. Like they should have won that game easily, but of course, they almost find a way to lose and somehow sneak out of it. So it's just, oh my god, it's so typical Cowboys.
Well, so okay, so with the going for two. So okay, yeah, like you, I'm basically like, look, I support going for two there to try to basically essentially win the game. I mean, because that's essentially you do that, you convert it, you probably win the game there. And I'm all for it. Like if you have one play that can basically win the game, why not try it? I mean, especially if you feel like you got a good play, and they did have a good play. They did. Apparently, I don't know if they did or not, but I guess they didn't declare, the offensive lineman didn't declare as eligible. So I totally supported that. Even if they didn't get it, I get it, because if you go to overtime, maybe you don't win the coin toss, whatever. Okay, but usually that's a gamble where if you don't get it, it's over. But in this case, you got bailed out because they did the call, then they back you up. So you could have kicked the extra point there, and now you're at like the 7-yard line. They should have taken the extra point there. Okay, and the thing that I was thinking about this morning. This like came to me. I was like, okay, we talk a lot about, well, what do you need to do to win the game? Okay, well, how do you want to lose games? Think about it this way, okay? Like, there's more preferable ways to lose. Some ways of losing are more preferable than others, okay?
Right.
Do you want to lose in regulation trying to get a 2-point conversion from the 7-yard line or from like the 4-yard line? Or would you rather lose, tie game, it goes into overtime, and, you lose the coin toss, they go down and score a touchdown? Would you rather lose that way, or would you rather lose trying to convert us, get into the end zone from 7 yards out? I would rather lose in overtime, okay? Because there's lots of different things that could happen in overtime, that maybe something goes your way. Maybe somebody fumbles the ball. Maybe you get an interception. Maybe you stop them. Your defense has a chance to stop them. Maybe you stop them in the first possession of overtime. You get the ball, you go down, kick a field goal, win the game. So yeah, I didn't think he should have kept going for it. That to me felt like a really overly emotional decision by Dan Campbell. He should have just taken the extra point and been like, all right, we'll stop them. They get the ball back, they're not going to be able to do anything with it, and then we'll see what happens in overtime. Also, especially because, were they at home? No, they were on the road. Also, you're on the road. So, I feel like when you're on the road, you know what? I don't think you should. You were aggressive there, but don't be too overly aggressive. And then also, look, the field goal, I was watching the game. They decided to, and it was like the fourth down that they went for where they could have kicked the short field goal. It was like, it wasn't 4th and 1. It was like 4th and 4 or something.
Yeah.
Right? 4th and 3, 4th and 4, 4th and 5, whatever it was. Like, what do you do? Just take the, and the game was 7-3 at that point. Why not just kick the field goal? You're only down by 1 point.
I was thinking, like, Clark, this is a crazy game. This is kind of weird. Like, this is going to be wild. So take the 3 points, because the way this is going, there should have been so many more points scored, but there weren't. So it's like, you know what? Take the points here, because I don't know about this game. Like, this is not, points don't seem to be easy to come by, because everybody was trying to score, but they just couldn't get it in.
Yeah, I don't get what I don't understand is whenever you have a chance to kick a field goal to tie the game, be down by 1 point, 1 or 2 points, or kick a field goal to take the lead, why wouldn't you just do it? Like, fuck the analytics. I don't care about that. Like, if I have a chance to tie the game, get really close, or just take the lead, even if it's only a few points, so what? Just kick the field goal. What's the problem?
Well, and the other thing is, Clark, a lot of these analytics, like every time that ESPN Analytics says go for it, okay, so they're doing it based on what's your projection to win the game, based on this call in the second, third quarter, whatever it is, right? So, okay, but we don't know, but they're not telling us what the difference is, right? So it could be you have a 4% better chance to win the game if you go for it here. Okay, that's in a single game, that is totally insignificant. Whatever percentages you're giving me over a huge sample size mean jack shit in one game. They don't mean a damn thing. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. It's like we get too caught up in this nonsense. Just do what's smart there. And the smart thing for the Cowboys to do was to keep running the ball, to use up the clock. And the smart thing for Detroit was to do was just, if you'd have taken points earlier in the game. But I see a lot of people like ripping Dan Campbell for it. And I'm like, that wasn't that bad a decision. Like, I don't agree. Like, I wouldn't have done it, but I don't think it's like the worst thing ever going for 2 there at the end of the game, even when you're back to, I don't think it's that bad a decision. It's not preferable at that point, because I feel like once you've made one and it got called back, your likelihood of making 2 2-point conversions in a row is pretty low. Yeah. So at that point, yeah, I think you probably.
Did you point this out, or was this somebody else? Like, how many 2-point plays do you have?
Right.
Like, there's only. I mean, they had one that would have worked. It's just there was a technical issue with it.
One of them, Troy Aikman or Joe Buck, said it during the game. They said it. They're like, I don't know how many 2-point plays you have, because when they're trying the third one, it's like, because remember the first one that they were gonna run, Dallas called timeout because Laporta was going to be wide open on the motion. So they called timeout. Then they ran the play that worked. It got called back, right? Then they ran another play, but Dallas was offsides. So you don't have 4 2-point conversion plays that are going to work. So anyway, but we'll move on. I feel like, it really sucks for Detroit. Like, I feel like they should have had that game, and somehow.
And Dallas, this is why we don't believe in you. Okay, this is why. This is a prime example of why we're just like, yeah, I'm not buying into the Cowboys. And I'm gonna say, look, I said it before the season. They're not going to the Super Bowl, and I'll say it right now. They're not going to the NFC Championship game. Period. Okay. Period. Mark it down.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I was listening, like, Colin Cowherd after the game was like, yeah, I believe in Detroit more than Dallas, but neither one of these teams is going to the Super Bowl. I mean, come on. What did we just watch? Like, honestly, you're not going to the Super Bowl like that. Neither one of these teams, honestly. Yeah. And I like Detroit. I'm not bashing Detroit. Like, but to me, like, Detroit, like, they just need another draft and to help their defense. They just need more good players on defense. That's their only major issue. Dallas, I believe it's just a personality thing. I don't think it matters. You saw how Dak played. I mean, that was a really bad interception, especially in the first half. And so that's the funny thing with Dak. That was a really bad interception. But the drive to get them up 20 to whatever it was, 20 to 10 or whatever. 13.
He made some really good throws on that drive, But that interception earlier was bad, and then the last drive you throw the ball out of bounds. It's like, it's just like, you get some of this is good and then some of this is bad. 2 steps forward, 1 step back,
Yep. Yeah, and I just the Cowboys don't have their shit together. So